Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to share my screen so everybody hopefully can see it. Um, I'm going to talk a lot about the brain, and I want to tell you that this is really an opportunity for you to have a paradigm shift, because when I heard this for the first time, it really opened my eyes, and it really let me see that if I really wanted to change, if I wanted to have a different life, if I wanted to be more successful, if I wanted to be more open to love, if I wanted to be able to relax more, all the things that I wanted, then it was in reach. And there are some things, of course, that I needed to do in order to be able to have this, but that it was possible. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to tell you a few of those tricks and tips and share a little bit with you what I do. And of course, I want to hear from you, because we learn together. And one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that oftentimes we actually do know what to do, right? We know that if we want to make more money, perhaps it would be good for us to have a budget or be mindful of what we do with our money. Or if we want to be healthier, that it would be good for us to stop drinking Coca-Cola and going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. But the real question is, how come we don't do that? And I'm going to suggest to you that the answer to that can be found in the unconscious part of the brain. And that's what we're going to explore today. We're going to look at what does the unconscious part of our brain have to do with success, and how can we actually get there. So let's see if I can move my screen forward. We're going to look at the brain. We're going to look at something that I call emotional rescue. We're going to talk a little bit about muscle testing. Let's see how far we get. See if we have a time for demo. And of course, I want to hear from you. So I want to hear from you right away. I want to hear from you. And this is an opportunity for you to brag. So tell me what's working well. And I put some things up here, like work, finances, continued education, personal development. You guys are here. Taking care of yourself, families, relationships. What is working well? And you can unmute yourself and share with us what's working well. And what I ask you is that you are sort of bottom line it, because we want to hear from as many people as possible. So just give us a bottom line of what is working well, and who wants to go first? Okay, so for some of us, work's not going so well. Maybe our education is not working well. Commitments, taking care of yourself, relationships, managing money, the world. So again, this is an opportunity for you to share about what's not going so well. And I recommend that you look at it from a place of personal responsibility. And I understand that the world's not going well, because I live in Israel, and it was only about a year ago that I sat in a bomb shelter for 2 weeks, and many of us experiencing all kinds of challenges. But when we're looking at making a difference, we can't really change the outside world so easily. So I want to take a look at it from a place of personal responsibility. So let's take a moment and focus on what is not going so well. So who would like to share? Who is brave enough to share? And if we can hear from some, we have a belief that we can't have. If we have a belief that we can't have both things, that is limiting us, you are at liberty to take a look at that belief and change it for yourself and upgrade it. And you could say, no, Barbie, you don't understand. It's like, yes, I do understand. So at any moment in our life, we can sort of call it on ourselves and identify those limiting beliefs, and just say, maybe it's not so. Maybe it can be different. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain. I said I was going to talk about the brain. And this, when I heard this for the first time, was eye-opening for me. So here's a brain, and I'm going to do a little bit of brain surgery. I promise it won't hurt. And I think what I want you to do is I want you to map your situation onto the brain as I'm talking about it. So basically we have three parts of the brain. We have what's called the rational brain, we have the limbic brain, and we have the reptilian brain. I'm going to explain the three parts to you. Now, we all know that the brain controls everything about us, from muscle movement to breathing, to thinking, feeling, survival, you know, why you came, why you didn't come, why you fell in love, why you're goal-oriented, anything that has to do with your belief system, everything about us comes from the brain. Now, what they don't tell us in school is that only one part of the brain is conscious. So guess what? The rational part of the brain is the conscious part of the brain. And that part of the brain is responsible for language, analytics, you know, anything that has to do with understanding and analyzing and those kind of things. Education. So right now your neocortex is working very hard to listen. And when I'm asking you to share, you know, your neocortex is creating words. Whenever we have a goal, or for all the things that we want to accomplish in our life, we always need to have the neocortex involved, because in all of our goals, we use language, okay? And language is created by the neocortex. So by default, the neocortex is always involved. The next part of the brain, and this part of the brain is actually subconscious, which means it's right below the consciousness, which also means it's involuntarily, meaning we don't have any control over it. And that is the limbic. The limbic system is part of the brain that produces, listen to my words, producing emotions, and it also regulates the temperature. That means that every time that you have a feeling, it's an involuntary chain reaction that is created by a chemical reaction inside your brain, okay? So when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling sad, or whatever you're feeling, it's not because, you know, you actually made that happen. It's something that gets created inside of you automatically. The next part of the brain is the fight, flight, or freeze. This is the reptilian brain. This is the part of the brain that gets triggered and wants to protect us. It's very much like nature. You know, we freeze, we play dead, we run away. When you think about the animals, you know, what does the lion do? Attacks. You know, what does a chameleon do? It blends into the sand. What do some of the animals do? You know, like a snake, for instance. I mean, snake does both, but the snake also doesn't move at all. It sort of just freezes. So we're just like the animals, hence it's called the reptilian brain. And we have this survival response when we get triggered and when we're afraid that we're about to die. Now, the challenge in 2022 is the same challenge that it was thousands of years ago. We're still worried about our survival. And because right now there actually are lots of things going on that are threatening our survival more than ever before, our reptilian brain is in high gear and constantly functioning and interfering with us moving our lives forward. So let me give you an example of this so that it makes more sense. I'm assuming a lot of you, like myself, have kids, and I have two little kids. And when I tell my 6-year-old son it's time for him to go to bed and brush his teeth, his reptilian brain kicks in because his life is about to end. Oh my God, he has to go to bed and everything's over. But when I tell him to go and play with his friends, you know, his limbic system is giving a positive signal, his reptilian's quiet, and he goes out and does that. So with us, it's the same. Whenever we have a goal, we have a feeling that's associated with the goal. And then the reptilian brain has a response to it. So it's either going to freeze, it's going to run, or it's going to fight. So if you've been wondering why you haven't been able to move yourself forward, it's because the limbic system in combination with the reptilian system are giving you tons of obstacles. And our willpower in most cases is just not strong enough to move ourselves forward. It's not like we can will ourselves to stop smoking, or we can't will ourselves to do certain things because the reptilian will say, no, it's not safe, and hence I'm going to have a different response. I'm going to tell you a few more things about the brain, and then I'm going to stop for comments. So another thing that's really important to know is this guy named Ivan Pavlov, and probably most of you remember him from school. This was a guy who did an experiment with dogs. And what he did is he wanted to condition the response. And so he would give the dogs some food, and then he would ring the bell, and the dogs would salivate, and eventually he would take the food away and just ring the bell. And what would happen is he had conditioned the dogs, and the dogs would salivate whenever they could hear the bell. Now, what they don't tell you about this famous experiment, that eventually when he kept doing this in healthy dogs, the conditioned response went away. So the dogs stopped salivating and they wanted the food. In unhealthy dogs, dogs that were beaten, dogs that were, had some sort of trauma, that conditioned response stayed. So my question is always, how healthy are we human beings? What kind of trauma have we experienced? And trauma doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, something that was maliciously done to us. Trauma can be, we have a baby at home and my son is traumatized because he lost his #1 spot. Okay, he's no longer the prince. He now has a little sister who also wants attention. That's for some kids some form of trauma. So important thing to remember is that in the healthy dogs, the conditioned response went away, and unhealthy dogs it didn't. We are 2 times more likely to hold on to what we have than take a risk to get what we want. It's called loss aversion. And thousands of years ago, when we were living in caves and we had to go out to hunt, in many cases it was the caveman, or mostly the caveman, because the women didn't really hunt. The caveman said, "No, I'm going to stay in my cave and have my weevily peanuts and eat my moldy berries and maybe die because it's too dangerous to go out and hunt." So it's called loss aversion, and we still have it. And we are 2 times more likely to hold on to shitty things that are not good for us, just because we're afraid to get what we want, because we are so conditioned to, to hold on than to let go. So loss aversion. So for those of you who are wondering why it's hard for you to get rid of the stuff in your closet or other things that you've been holding on for years and you don't ever use them and you wonder why it's still there, taking up stuff, that's it. This is why. Including jobs that are not good for us, including relationships that are not good for us, etc., etc. 2 more things. There's a lady named Candace Perd. She was, as you can read here, the brain chemistry section for the NIH, and she wrote a book. It's called The Molecule of Emotion. And what she found out is what I told you a little bit ago. The limbic brain is all of our body. Okay, so emotions are being created by neuropeptides attaching receptors and stimulating electrical charge on the neuron. What that looks like is that we have a big, let's say it's called the neuropeptide, and it attaches to a receptor. It's like a giant satellite dish. And when the connection is being made, then we have a feeling. Okay, so it's not because the radio plays wonderful and we have these amazing feelings and we're generating them by ourselves. No, it's like there's a neuropeptide that goes into a receptor, like a big satellite dish, and then we feel something. And this limbic brain is all over our body, so you can have an emotional experience in your toe, in your tummy, in your ear, all over the body. Okay, last but not least. So how do we deal with making something happen in the moment? So the brain looks and sees what's happening right now. What's my perception? Is it safe? What happened in the past? What was my memory of the situation? Let's say I want to go through a door and I've never been through this door before. And so my brain goes, okay, what's going on right now? Did I ever go through a door before? This kind of door. Okay, was it safe? Was it not safe? And then generating actions in the present based on my stored memory that resulted in survival. So if it was a good experience, I will go through the door. My muscle memory will remember how to do it. If it was a bad memory, I don't know. And I always say babies are not afraid of elevators. It's something that is a learned behavior. Okay, so look at this. We have the conscious level, the neocortex, we have the subconscious level, and then we have the unconscious level. And that part of our brain makes up 88% of our experiences and why we do something and why we don't something. So right here, you got one big secret. 88% of why you're successful in life has to do with the subconscious level and the unconscious level. Only 12%, and people actually say less, is your rational mind, understanding things, thinking about things, and those kind of things. So let me stop here and see comments that we know. All right, so when we look at the sum of all knowledge, we know that there are things that we know that we know. For instance, I know that I speak German, and I know that I live in Israel, and I know that I have 2 kids. There are things that I know that I know. Okay, so I want you to think about what are the things that you know, and maybe just write them down. You know, these are things that we know. It's like, I know how to drive a car. I know how to get myself on a Zoom call most days. I know how to brush my teeth. You know, those are things that I know. And then here to the right, there are things that I know that I don't know. Okay, there are things, for instance, I know that I don't speak Ukrainian. I know that I don't speak Arabic or Turkish, or I know that I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I know that I don't know how to do those things. I'm consciously aware of it. Okay, so we're looking at our conscious awareness. And then on the other hand, down here below, there are things that I don't know that I do know. So maybe, you know, I didn't know that I know how to ice skate, but somebody invites me to go ice skating, and boom, I know how to ice skate. And there might be other things that I didn't know that I knew, and I'm finding out about it. But the area that we're really interested in are the things that I don't know that I don't know. And there are tons of things, and these are what we usually call blind spots. And simple awareness is often curative. I think Albert Einstein said that. And so if we can get these things from the blind spot and move them into our awareness, then I can actually look at my behavior, because like we just established, you know, how do we actually get things or manifest things, or however, whatever word you want to use, it's because we're actually doing a particular behavior that brings us the thing or gets us the experience that we're looking for. So you can think about, you know, are there things that you don't know that you do know? And of course, these are the things that we don't know that you don't know, so you wouldn't know about it. Oftentimes, this is why, you know, people have a coach, or why people talk to a friend. This is sometimes why we want to get some feedback, and so that we can be open to that. Okay, so change, right? This is a big thing. People have been telling us that it's difficult to change, but you can see how the play on word is. There's actually a change. When we look at the baby, you know, I told you I have a baby at home. She's 14 months old. She changes every day, and she doesn't have any problem with changing. And the older we get, the harder we think it becomes for us to change. And my question is, why is that? Are we being told that it's hard to change? Is society telling us it's difficult? Why is it harder and harder and harder? Because we continue to change. We get older, things happen, and you know, we're not the same. So here's part of the practical part of the presentation. So I want to talk a little bit about activities that support change. And one of the things that I didn't tell you, I got my PhD in spiritual science. And one of the things I had to do is I had to do an experiment over 10 weeks, and I had to enroll people from all over the world to track things. And what I asked people to track was how much water they had, how much sleep they had, did they exercise, did they meditate, and what was their diet like. And then they had to track how well they were feeling. Did they feel good in their own skin? Were they comfortable? Or did they feel optimistic? And I tell you that the most important thing that people could do was actually get enough sleep. So if you want to change and if you want to accomplish things that you haven't been able to do, oftentimes what we do is we stay up late, but that's actually counterintuitive. So you want to get a lot of sleep. So what are some of the activities to support change? Set daily intentions. An intention is not a goal. An intention is the qualitative part of the goal. It's how you want to feel. It's how you want to experience yourself throughout the day. So an intention could be, I want to be relaxed. The intention could be, I want to feel positive. And then you can see, how your goals will come out from your intention. For instance, let's say if you want to run a marathon, most people don't think about how they want to feel. They have this goal of running a marathon, and then they have months and months of practice. And maybe they hated running a marathon, they just wanted to accomplish the goal. But when you take a moment to really think about how you actually want to feel and how you want to experience yourself, and then combine that with a goal, that's amazing, because then you have the best of both worlds. You have the qualitative and you have the quantitative. Most of you know this already, positive thinking, visualizing your goal. Some of you may have done this already, but you want to take some moment to identify your values, your strengths, your weaknesses. You want to forgive yourself. And this is not necessarily meant spiritual. This is meant as a, every day our brain comes up with all kinds of criticism about why we don't do this right and why the world's not right and why this and why that. So this is an opportunity to sort of neutralize the situation in yourself and just, let it go. And so that you can move yourself back into directing yourself into activities that you want to do, and so that you can get what you want. Appreciate or champion yourself daily. Appreciation and championing are two skills from coaching. Appreciation is when you talk about something that happened in the past, but you mention the particulars. So I might say, I really appreciate you doing, taking care of this, because I saw that you were creative and you worked really hard and you dedicated yourself. So I'm actually acknowledging the person for their skill. And championing is the same about the future. It's about looking at the person's ability and their skills and who they are, and mentioning that and letting them know that I'm championing them about their goals in the future. Using feelings to help make decisions, and also using feelings to set and achieve goals. Let me stop here again and see if, give me a second. Okay, so here's some more things, and these are actually things that really help your the subconscious and the unconscious. Drink plenty of water, get enough rest and eat a balanced diet. Somebody said this earlier also. Taking breaks, turning off the cell phone and the computer, and also finding meditation for prayer and mindfulness. So these are things, exercises, or tools that we use in order to calm the reptilian brain down. And when the reptilian brain is calmer, it's easier for you to get to that information. So for instance, if you make some time for quiet and you start to journal, you should put journaling on here, then you're able to sort of start having a dialogue with yourself. So one of the tools that you can practice, take a look at, is when you take a piece of paper, and on one side of the paper, you sort of write in the voice of the you, and on the other side of the paper, you start inquiring with yourself. Okay, so it's like, it could look something like, I really want to, I really would like to lose some weight. And then and I'm not really sure what's going on. And so you inquire, and then you listen and see what some other part of you have to say. And then through the quiet, there might actually be some information. You might hear yourself say, well, I'm really afraid to lose weight because, I might be more attractive. And, while part of me wants to be more attractive, I'm also afraid of it. And then you have this dialogue We call this inner counseling. And in the inner counseling, sort of the part of you that has an issue is being counseled by some part of you, the wise part of you, or whatever you want to connect to it. Another great way to deal with this is also something called freeform writing. Freeform writing is a tool where you take a piece of paper and you take half-hour, and you have to commit before you start that whatever you're going to write, you're going to destroy. And I recommend burning it. And so that you sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, and you write down whatever you want to write down about a particular situation. So if you're stuck in a situation, you just start writing and you access your emotions, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And because you've made this commitment that you're going to destroy it, usually what will happen is that more information from the subconscious and unconscious will come up because you're letting the pressure off and you're allowing yourself to go deeper. Because oftentimes why we can't have access to this information is because we're telling ourselves, I don't want to know, it's not good, or I won't, I'm going to be depressed, or so forth. So you have to commit that you're going to destroy the information and that you're not going to read it. Okay, you write it, you don't even have to look. It's like often I go like this, and you don't read it. You destroy it right away, and you have to take at least half hour. So those are some of the things that you can do to get into the subconscious and the unconscious. Okay, so now let's look at the tools that we're using. I told you, how do we get really into, what are some other tools that we can use in order to get to this? So I told you about freeform writing. Sure, you know about prayer, meditation, mindfulness. Some people do hypnosis. Hypnosis is definitely one of the ways to get to the subconscious. There's somatic work. There's NLP. There's EFT. I know, there's all kinds of people on InterNations, and so some people practice NLP, EFT. There's dream work. There's people that have a journal right next to their bed, and they write all their dreams down. And you take a look at them, because in the dream, it can be very rich. Some of us don't dream, but some of us have a very rich dreams. Beliefs work, guided imagery. So guided imagery is when somebody will guide you on a meditation. There's work, it's called healing of memories. Sometimes when we're being of service to others, we stretch ourselves using your intuition. And then this is what I do. I practice something called muscle testing, kinesiology, and I combine it with coaching, and it's called neuro-emotional coaching. So let me just stop here once again and just see if there are questions, comments. So this is what I want to talk a little bit about. Maybe there's a brave person that I can work with. So I use muscle testing because of many of the things that we talked about. I want to get to the unconscious, and I know from my own life that the unconscious is really sometimes keeping me in place. And when all parts of our brain are in alignment, then we can really do amazing things. Meaning, our goals are in alignment with our emotions, and or maybe even positive emotions are being generated, and the subconscious is, and the unconscious saying, yay, everything is cool. So some of you know about muscle testing. I saw that you guys were doing it. So what's muscle testing? The way I use muscle testing, it's a 2,000-year technique. It comes to us from China, and it's based on the premise that every time that you have a thought or you make a statement that's in line with your reality, your muscle will be positive. Okay. So, and vice versa, that when I make a statement that doesn't, is not in line with your reality, that the muscle is weak. So it's a cooperative test. So muscle testing only works when we're a team. So when I work with somebody, it's like obviously that I have the permission to work with them. Think about it as an oil gauge, as a thermometer. So it doesn't necessarily mean yes or no, or right or wrong, or bad or good. Basically, it just gives me information. Gives me information about does it work for somebody? Is it in alignment? And so what I do is I check beliefs. Okay, so if you come to me and you say, I want to have XYZ, then I ask you to make a statement, and the statements I'm okay with. I'm okay with, let's say, being in love, or I'm okay with being confident, or I'm okay with leaving my country, or I'm okay with being a mother, or I'm okay with, what all the different things that we want in our lives. And if that statement is not a positive muscle test, it's a weak muscle test, then I do something called neuro-emotional coaching, and the goal is to find the connection in the subconscious and unconscious, connect them, do a breathing technique, and thereby allow your brain to let go of that habitual. Remember, I told you that there's a neuropeptide that attaches to the receptor. And so to let go of that habitual response. So that's the whole goal of I'm interested in. So I'm interested in changing that, because I know from experience, and you just have to take my word for it, after 25 years, that once the statement is now strong, that you are able to do more of what you want to do in order to get where you want to get. Okay, so it's like, if I want to have something, most likely I need to do something in order to get it, and there's behavior involved. And if all of my statements are in line with what it is that I want to accomplish, then it's more likely that I will do it. It's actually pretty much guaranteed. So this is kind of the samples of some of the questions. I'm okay with charging more money. I'm okay with exercising, making mistakes, being loved, growing my business, having fun, getting pregnant, on and on and on and on.